Ladies and gentlemen, the world we live in is constantly evolving, constantly changing. It seems that with every step we take, there is another voice speaking out, another cause calling for our attention. But as we stand at the crossroads of human history, I want to remind you of something that is often overlooked. There comes a moment in the journey of life, in the fight for justice, and in the pursuit of truth, when silence becomes not just a response, but a necessity. There is a profound truth in the idea of silence. We are taught from an early age that silence is the absence of sound. We are conditioned to think of silence as a passive state, as a void that exists when there is nothing to say. But true silence, earned silence, speaks louder than words ever could. It speaks to the depth of understanding, the weight of experience, and the power of restraint. In every life, there are moments when our words lose their value. There are times when speaking is no longer the answer, when words no longer carry the weight they once did. In those moments, silence is earned. Silence is not a retreat, but a decision. A decision to recognize that some things cannot be explained, some battles cannot be fought with words, and some hurts cannot be healed by speech alone. There are individuals who have spent their lives speaking loudly, proclaiming their thoughts, trying to be heard above the noise of the world. Yet they fail to realize that there are some voices that can never be drowned out by the clamor of the many. These voices, true voices, strong voices, do not need to shout. Their strength lies in their quiet dignity, in their ability to stand firm even when the world around them screams for attention. When someone has reached a level of understanding, of wisdom, of purpose, they understand that there is power in withholding. They know that silence is not weakness, but rather the highest form of strength. In those moments when the world seeks to provoke, silence becomes a weapon of peace. It is a declaration that you have transcended the trivialities of life and have entered into a space where your actions and your being speak more than your words ever could. For many, silence comes as a result of pain. When we are hurt, when we are betrayed, when we are disrespected, the natural reaction is to respond, to fight back, to argue, to demand justice. But there comes a time when the pain becomes so profound that words can no longer capture its depth. In those moments, silence is not the absence of response, but the presence of understanding. It is the recognition that some things in life are beyond explanation, that some things are so sacred, so profound, that they cannot be reduced to mere words. In the face of betrayal, in the midst of injustice, in the times when others seek to undermine our value or question our worth, we are faced with a choice. We can choose to engage in a battle of words, to get lost in the noise of the world, or we can choose silence. We can choose to let our silence speak for us, to let our actions and our presence make a statement far greater than anything our tongues could articulate. When they have earned your silence, they have, in essence, lost their right to your voice. Your silence is not an absence of power. It is the final, undeniable statement that the situation no longer holds the influence it once did. You have moved beyond the need for validation. You have moved beyond the need to explain yourself. In that silence, you take control. And so I say to you today, there are moments when you must embrace silence, when you must choose to stand firm, when you must refuse to be drawn into unnecessary conflict. There is strength in your silence. There is wisdom in your restraint. And there is power in your decision to withhold what you once freely gave. Because, my friends, when they have earned your silence, they have truly earned your forever silence. And in that silence, you become a force to be reckoned with without ever saying a word. Silence is not absence, it is a powerful response that carries meaning beyond words. True silence is earned through understanding, experience, and wisdom. In moments of profound pain or injustice, silence becomes a decision, not a retreat. Some battles cannot be won with words. Silence is sometimes the most effective weapon. Silence does not signify weakness, but strength and maturity. Words lose their value when they are used frivolously. Silence is the mark of those who have transcended trivialities. When faced with betrayal or disrespect, silence speaks louder than any words could ever do. Silence is a declaration that you no longer need validation from those who seek to undermine you. When they have earned your silence, they have also lost their right to influence your life. Silence is not merely the absence of sound, it is a powerful and intentional response that carries with it layers of meaning, depth, and purpose. In a world that is constantly filled with noise, opinions, distractions, debates, and voices clamoring for attention, silence is often misunderstood as passivity or indifference. Yet, in its truest form, silence is anything but passive. It is a deliberate choice, a conscious decision to withhold the noise and instead allow the quiet to speak volumes. When you choose silence, you are not simply choosing to stop talking. You are choosing to step back from the noise of the world around you and place value in something deeper, something more significant. Silence is the space where clarity emerges, where understanding deepens, and where the weight of your actions speaks louder than any words could ever articulate. It is a response to the chaos that surrounds us, a way of saying that not every battle needs to be fought with words. Sometimes the most profound message you can send is not to engage in the clamor, but to stand firm in the power of your silence. In silence, there is room for reflection, for inner strength, and for peace that cannot be disturbed by the uproar of the world. It becomes an active tool, an intentional space where you choose not to react but to respond thoughtfully, with purpose. This silence does not mean that you lack a voice, rather, it means you have chosen a voice that is more deliberate and powerful. When you truly understand the power of silence, you realize that it is often in the quietest moments that the most profound truths are revealed. It is in those moments of restraint and stillness that you find your greatest strength. True silence is not a result of avoidance or neglect, it is earned through understanding, experience, and wisdom. It is not something that is easily achieved, nor is it simply a matter of choosing not to speak. Instead, it comes from a place of deep reflection, where one recognizes that not all situations require a response, and not all questions need to be answered. The person who has earned their silence has lived through enough experiences to know that silence is sometimes the most profound expression of their wisdom. They have seen enough of life to understand that words, no matter how eloquent or well-intentioned, often fail to capture the complexities of reality. They know that certain things cannot be explained through speech alone, and some moments are better left in the quiet space of understanding. This silence is the result of years of personal growth and emotional maturity. It is born from the ability to discern when words will only add to confusion, noise, or conflict. It is not a reaction to silence imposed upon them, but a choice made from a place of strength. The person who has earned this silence understands that true power lies in restraint. They know that to speak carelessly is to risk trivializing the significance of the moment, and in many cases it is the very act of holding one's tongue that communicates the most. There is a level of self-awareness that comes with earning silence. This is not the silence of those who are ignorant of their surroundings or unaware of their emotions. It is the silence of those who have observed the world and its ways, who have suffered pain and joy alike, and who have come to the realization that they no longer need to prove themselves through their words. Their silence is not a retreat, it is a manifestation of their inner strength. They have learned the art of knowing when speaking is unnecessary, when it will not change the outcome, and when it will only drain energy and focus from more important matters. Earning silence comes with the wisdom to understand that sometimes the loudest statements are made in the quietest of moments. It is the recognition that your life, your actions, and your character are a more powerful testament to who you are than anything you could say. Silence, in this sense, becomes the combination of experiences both painful and uplifting that have shaped a person into someone who no longer seeks validation or approval from others. They understand that silence, when earned, holds greater authority than words ever could. It is not an absence of thought or feeling, but a presence of understanding that cannot be easily articulated. In moments of profound pain or injustice, silence becomes a decision, a conscious choice rather than a passive reaction. It is in these times, when emotions are raw and the desire to speak out is most intense, that silence becomes not a retreat, but a powerful act of control. When wronged, betrayed, or misunderstood, the natural instinct is often to respond, to defend oneself, to fight for recognition of truth. It is a response born from a deep need to be seen, heard, and validated. But in these most vulnerable moments, silence can be a far more potent choice. Choosing silence in the face of betrayal is not about submitting to harm or allowing others to walk over you. It is instead a recognition that not every injustice requires a vocal confrontation. Some wounds run so deep that words can never truly heal them, and often responding in anger or frustration only deepens the divide. When you choose silence, it becomes a statement that your sense of dignity and self-respect are not dependent on others' acknowledgement or acceptance. In those moments of injustice, you may realize that some things in life are too sacred to be reduced to words, that they are too profound to be articulated by the language of the world. Silence, when chosen from a place of pain, reflects a profound inner strength. It is the recognition that you do not need to lower yourself to engage in a battle that will not change the course of the situation. Sometimes, no matter how much you speak, no matter how forcefully you defend your truth, others will not understand or accept it. Silence then becomes the acknowledgement that some people and situations are beyond your influence. And it is only by stepping away, by refraining from further verbal engagement, that you maintain your peace. In the midst of pain, silence allows you to process your feelings without the added burden of defending yourself to those who may never understand your perspective. It becomes a tool for healing, allowing time and space for you to come to terms with what has happened without the constant pressure to explain, justify, or prove your worth. Choosing silence is a declaration that your peace is more important than the chaos that others may seek to impose upon you. It reflects a maturity and self-awareness that understands the value of distance from toxic situations. When you are hurt, silence offers you the opportunity to rise above the immediate emotional reaction, giving you the clarity and wisdom to decide how best to move forward, not with words, but with actions that will speak for you in time. Silence also communicates a level of emotional intelligence that others may not immediately recognize. Those who are accustomed to a world where everything must be said, every wrong must be corrected, and every slight must be addressed may fail to understand the power of holding one's tongue in the face of hurt. But in that silence lies a deeper understanding. It reflects an awareness that you are not defined by the opinions of others and that your worth is not contingent upon convincing others of your truth. In choosing silence, you maintain control over your emotional state, refusing to let the actions or words of others dictate your response. Silence in these moments of injustice or pain is not a form of weakness, nor does it imply submission. Rather, it is a deliberate act of power, a refusal to allow your peace, your focus, and your sense of self to be disrupted by forces outside your control. It is the ultimate assertion of your own dignity, an acknowledgement that the value of your silence is far greater than any words could ever convey. Some battles cannot be won with words. Silence often becomes the most effective weapon in these moments. In a world where conflict and division are often resolved through debates, arguments, and assertions, we are taught that the loudest voice is the one that prevails. But there are situations where words are insufficient, where dialogue only serves to escalate tensions, or where the issues at hand are too deep and complex to be reduced to mere verbal exchanges. In these instances, silence becomes the most strategic choice, not out of fear or weakness, but out of wisdom and clarity. When faced with a conflict where the stakes are high and emotions are running wild, speaking can sometimes fuel the fire rather than extinguish it. Words, no matter how well thought out or how well intended, can easily be misinterpreted, twisted, or lost in the heat of the moment. In such times, silence is a shield that protects both the individual and the integrity of the situation. By choosing silence, you remove yourself from the escalation that often follows when voices are raised, and you take a step back to observe rather than react. Silence gives you the space to assess, to reflect, and to make a choice that words cannot give you. While words are meant to express thoughts and emotions, silence provides room for wisdom and discernment. In the heat of a confrontation, silence allows you to withdraw from the emotional intensity of the moment, giving you the opportunity to think strategically to determine whether it's worth engaging at all. Or if the better course of action is simply to remain silent and let the situation run its course. Often, the most profound message you can send in these moments is not through what you say, but through what you withhold. Silence is an assertion of your own emotional intelligence. It is a decision to not be provoked or drawn into a battle that serves no purpose. Furthermore, silence gives the opportunity for others involved in the conflict to reflect as well. In many situations, the intensity of confrontation can be overwhelming, clouding judgment and obscuring truth. When you choose silence in these moments, it can serve as a catalyst for others to rethink their positions, to step away from their own emotional responses, and to reassess their actions and words. The absence of your response forces a pause in the ongoing dialogue, providing the space for all parties to reflect on what has been said, what has been done, and whether it's even necessary to continue down the path of conflict. There is also the recognition that some battles are not worth engaging in at all. Not every disagreement, insult, or disagreement deserves your attention. Silence becomes a statement of your understanding that some people are not open to dialogue, that some situations are beyond reconciliation, and that engaging with certain individuals or issues will not lead to resolution, only further division. Silence in these instances is an act of self-preservation, recognizing that your energy is far more valuable than wasting it on battles that do not align with your values, goals, or peace. The power of silence in such battles is also tied to the idea that your actions and your presence can speak volumes. While words might be fleeting, actions have lasting impact. Silence becomes a canvas on which your character, your strength, and your wisdom can be painted in a way that no verbal exchange can replicate. When you choose to remain silent, you allow your actions, decisions, and composure to carry the message, a message far more powerful than words ever could. It is in the stillness of silence that you give room for the truth of the situation to emerge on its own, without the need for constant verbal intervention or defense. Ultimately, when words cannot win the battle, silence offers a different kind of victory, a victory rooted in restraint, maturity, and strategic thinking. It is not a passive choice, but an active one that reflects the understanding that sometimes the most powerful weapon you have is the ability to remain silent and allow the forces of time, wisdom, and peace to guide the outcome. Silence does not signify weakness, rather, it is a demonstration of strength and maturity. In a world where people often equate power with speaking loudly and defending oneself at all costs, silence can be seen as an anomaly. It can be mistaken for passivity, submission, or fear. But true strength lies in the ability to hold one's tongue when provoked, to restrain from reacting impulsively, and to remain composed in the face of adversity. The power of silence is a force that speaks volumes louder than any words could ever do. When you choose silence, you are not simply avoiding conflict or withdrawing in defeat. You are making a conscious decision to maintain control over your emotions and responses. It requires an immense level of emotional intelligence and inner peace to refrain from reacting in the moment. In situations where others might lash out, get defensive, or resort to insults, the person who remains silent is often the one who demonstrates true strength. They are the ones who have learned that responding in haste or anger can escalate the situation, but choosing silence shows a level of self-discipline and restraint that is not easily attained. This form of strength is often misunderstood, as it is not outwardly obvious, but it is a quiet power that commands respect. In many instances, people feel the need to defend their honor, justify their actions, or correct misunderstandings. But the act of defending oneself constantly can often lead to a loss of energy, a drain on one's emotional resources. It can result in unnecessary conflict and at times even cause the situation to spiral out of control. Silence, on the other hand, offers the space to assess the situation without immediately reacting. By choosing not to speak, you regain control, allowing your inner strength to remain unshaken by external forces. The ability to hold your tongue is a sign of maturity, understanding that there is a time to speak, and there is a time when silence is the most dignified response. Moreover, silence can be a form of protection. It shields you from unnecessary battles that may drain your energy, cause unnecessary harm, or lead you down a path of conflict that serves no constructive purpose. People who do not understand the power of silence may view it as a lack of engagement, but in reality, it is an act of self-preservation. In the face of ignorance or malice, silence allows you to avoid getting entangled in negativity or disputes that would otherwise diminish your energy and focus. It is the act of choosing peace over chaos, of protecting your emotional well-being by refusing to engage in battles that do not align with your values. Silence is also the mark of wisdom. It is the understanding that not every battle is worth fighting, and that speaking in certain situations can undermine the potential for resolution or growth. It is knowing that words once spoken cannot be taken back, and that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to remain still and let the moment pass. In this way, silence becomes a tool for introspection and reflection, allowing you to gather your thoughts, weigh your options, and consider the best course of action without the pressure of immediate verbal response. In contrast, silence has a way of preserving the value of our thoughts. When we choose to remain silent, we create space for our words to hold meaning when they are eventually spoken. Silence, in this sense, is an act of restraint and careful consideration. It reflects an understanding that not every thought needs to be verbalized and that sometimes holding back is a more powerful way to express oneself. The person who speaks only when necessary and with purpose commands greater respect than the one who speaks at every opportunity, filling every silence with unnecessary chatter. Additionally, the overuse of words can lead to misunderstandings, confusion, and even conflict. Words, while they can be powerful, are also prone to misinterpretation. In the heat of an argument or a conversation, a single misstep in language can escalate the situation, turning a simple exchange into a full-blown disagreement. Silence, on the other hand, allows for clarity and understanding. By choosing silence, you give yourself the opportunity to listen, to absorb what is being said, and to respond thoughtfully when the time is right. Silence protects you from impulsive reactions that may arise from the frustration of trying to be understood or from the pressure to fill every moment with conversation. Furthermore, silence holds a deep connection to self-awareness. When we are silent, we are often forced to reflect on our own thoughts, our own feelings, and our own intentions. In a world where we are constantly bombarded with information, opinions, and external noise, silence provides an opportunity to turn inward to evaluate the truth of our own hearts and to gain insight into our own desires and motivations. It is in silence that we often find the clarity we need to make wise decisions, to recognize what truly matters, and to prioritize our time and energy accordingly. Words are often a distraction from this inner process, while silence allows us to reconnect with our deeper selves. In moments of conflict or tension, words that are spoken without consideration often serve to worsen the situation. We may say things we don't mean, or we may find ourselves repeating things that we have already said, hoping that more words will somehow change the outcome. But in truth, when words are overused, they become ineffective and at times even counterproductive. Silence, by contrast, allows us to step outside of the cycle of endless verbal exchange. It enables us to break free from the temptation to speak for the sake of speaking and instead focus on what truly matters. In this way, silence becomes an antidote to the excess of words, preserving the power and meaning of what is truly important. Moreover, the person who understands the value of silence knows that speaking at the right moment, with intentionality and clarity, can be far more impactful than filling every gap with words. Silence highlights the significance of what is said and reinforces the notion that words, when used sparingly, are precious and worth listening to. When we speak less, we give our words the opportunity to resonate more deeply, leaving. Silence holds the capacity to shield you from the distractions and emotional storms of the world. In a society that demands constant interaction, information, and engagement, it can be challenging to navigate the noise that surrounds us. People are conditioned to respond immediately, to react quickly, and to voice their opinions without considering the consequences. In the face of this overwhelming rush of external stimuli, silence becomes a protective force, a barrier that guards your mental and emotional well-being. When you remain silent, you take back control over your environment, asserting that not every external force deserves a reaction. The chaos of daily life can often pull us in many different directions, creating a sense of pressure to act, speak, or make decisions on the spot. But in these moments, silence becomes an act of self-preservation. It creates space between you and the emotional reactions that could be triggered by outside forces. In choosing silence, you consciously disengage from the external demands that might overwhelm you, choosing to focus on your inner peace rather than being swept away by the noise. This distancing from the outside world allows you to remain grounded, to maintain clarity, and to protect your mental and emotional state from becoming fragile or volatile. Moreover, silence acts as a barrier against unnecessary influence. In a world where people constantly seek validation, approval, or guidance from others, silence becomes a form of independence. It allows you to step back from the crowd, to avoid being swayed by opinions, judgments, or external expectations. Instead of giving in to the pressure of conforming to what others want or think, silence empowers you to listen to your inner voice and follow your own path. It is an acknowledgement that not all opinions are worthy of your attention, and not every situation demands a response. By choosing silence, you shield yourself from being pulled in every direction, creating a sanctuary where your values, principles, and decisions remain intact. In times of intense pressure, silence grants you the opportunity to regain control over your reactions. When faced with criticism or conflict, the instinct may be to immediately defend, explain, or retaliate. But this knee-jerk reaction often leads to regret or further conflict. Silence in this case serves as a tool for emotional regulation. It gives you the time you need to process your feelings, to evaluate the situation, and to choose a measured, thoughtful response rather than an impulsive, emotionally charged one. This pause before reacting helps to prevent you from saying things that you might later regret or from getting caught up in unnecessary arguments. Silence, therefore, becomes a form of emotional strength, a sign that you are in control of your emotions, rather than allowing external circumstances to dictate your state of mind. The power of silence also lies in its ability to create a protective boundary around your peace. In the midst of a hectic or turbulent environment, silence allows you to step out of the noise and center yourself. It is a form of retreat, allowing you to temporarily detach from the demands of the world so that you can focus on what is truly important to you. In these moments, silence becomes a tool for mental rejuvenation. Just as we need rest for our bodies, our minds need periods of quiet to recharge, refocus, and regain clarity. Silence gives you permission to pause and reflect, to disconnect from the relentless barrage of demands and stimuli, and to restore your sense of inner balance. By consciously choosing silence, you become more discerning about where and how you invest your energy. You realize that responding to every provocation, engaging in every debate, or defending yourself against every opinion is both draining and counterproductive. Silence teaches you the power of selectivity. It is not about avoiding engagement altogether, but about choosing when and where your energy is best directed. Not every conflict, disagreement, or situation requires your involvement. In choosing silence, you protect your emotional resources and avoid getting caught in unnecessary drama. You guard your time, energy, and peace, allowing you to direct your focus toward what truly matters and to maintain the clarity and stability that come from not being swept up in the chaotic currents of the world. This shielding power of silence is not just about avoiding negative situations, but also about safeguarding your purpose. There are many distractions that can veer you off course, from external demands to internal doubts. Silence in these moments becomes a tool for staying true to your purpose and vision. When you are silent, you allow yourself to block out the noise that might lead you astray, staying firmly focused on the path you have chosen. It becomes a form of inner strength, a reminder that not everything requires your input and that your time and energy are valuable resources that must be preserved and used wisely. Through silence, you protect your focus, guarding the sanctity of your purpose and preventing distractions from steering you away from what is truly meaningful. Silence provides a space for healing, allowing individuals to process pain, grief, or disappointment without the immediate need to express or defend themselves. In times of deep emotional turmoil, words can feel inadequate or even burdensome. They fail to capture the full extent of the hurt, and speaking them may open wounds that are not yet ready to be addressed. Silence, therefore, becomes a form of self-care, creating a moment of pause where emotional recovery can begin. It offers a sanctuary, a safe space to gather oneself and regain composure before taking any action or making any decision. When we face emotional wounds, whether caused by loss, betrayal, or unmet expectations, the instinct may be to speak, either to seek comfort from others or to explain our pain. However, this often only exposes us further, leaving us vulnerable to judgment or misunderstanding. In contrast, silence acts as a protective shield during these times. It gives us the opportunity to withdraw from the noise and chaos of the outside world, allowing the pain to settle within us so we can begin to understand it, work through it, and ultimately heal from it. In silence, we are given the space to mourn, to reflect, and to grow stronger in our own time without feeling the pressure to immediately express what we are going through. This healing silence is also a recognition that not all wounds can be healed by external interventions or words. There are some emotional injuries so profound that only time and inner reflection can begin to repair them. When we are silent, we are not denying the existence of our pain, nor are we ignoring it. Instead, we acknowledge that the most profound healing. Silence is a powerful form of self-expression, often conveying more than words ever could. In a world where speaking is the primary mode of communication, silence becomes an intentional choice to communicate on a deeper level. When we are silent, we are often able to express our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs in a way that transcends the limitations of language. There are moments when words simply cannot capture the essence of what we want to convey. Silence, in these cases, allows us to express the complexity of our emotions and experiences without the need for verbal articulation. It is an art of communication that speaks directly to the heart, bypassing the clutter of words to reach a deeper understanding. In situations where words fall short, silence can often serve as a more authentic and honest expression. When we are overwhelmed by emotions or faced with complex situations, our words may fail to adequately represent what we are experiencing. In these moments, silence can communicate the unspoken, the feelings too deep for words, the truth that cannot be expressed in a simple sentence. Rather than offering a hasty or incomplete response, silence allows for a more profound acknowledgement of what is being felt. It communicates that some things are too sacred, too personal, or too profound to be reduced to a simple exchange of words. The beauty of silence is that it requires no explanation. In a world where we often feel the need to explain ourselves, to justify our actions or emotions, silence serves as a means of removing that burden. In silence, there is no need to clarify or defend. It is a form of expression that stands on its own. It allows us to communicate boundaries, desires, or discomforts without the need for lengthy discussions. When we choose silence, we are often saying more than we could with words. It can signify our refusal to engage in futile arguments, our decision to step back from conflict, or our recognition that silence creates the space necessary for personal growth and introspection. In the constant rush of daily life, where we are constantly surrounded by noise, distractions, and external demands, it becomes incredibly difficult to engage with our deeper selves. We are often so caught up in responding to the world around us, in fulfilling the expectations of others, or in reacting to external stimuli, that we fail to take the time needed for self-reflection. Silence provides the sanctuary we need to withdraw from these distractions, creating an environment in which we can turn inward, assess our thoughts, and understand our true desires, fears, and motivations. When we embrace silence, we give ourselves permission to pause and reflect on our lives, our choices, and the direction we are heading. It is in these quiet moments of solitude that we gain clarity about our purpose, our strengths, and the areas of our lives that require change. Silence allows us to disconnect from the noise of the world and tune into our own inner voice, the part of ourselves that knows what is truly important. In this state of stillness, we are able to confront difficult truths, face unresolved issues, and even discover new insights about ourselves that we may have previously overlooked. Without silence, this level of self-awareness and personal insight is often impossible to achieve, as the constant noise of external demands drowns out the still, quiet voice within. Moreover, silence allows us the space to heal from past wounds. Many of us carry emotional baggage from past experiences, and while we may continue to move forward in our lives, those wounds can still linger beneath the surface. Silence offers us the opportunity to face those hidden wounds and to process the pain we may have avoided. It provides the environment where we can sit with our emotions without rushing to explain or justify them. In these moments of introspection, we can begin to understand the roots of our pain, find ways to release it, and take the necessary steps toward healing. Silence in this way becomes a form of self-care, a quiet healing process that nurtures our emotional well-being. Personal growth also thrives in the absence of noise because silence encourages the development of patience and self-discipline. In a world that values constant activity and achievement, silence can feel like an interruption. But in reality, it is a necessary pause that allows us to slow down and be present. Growth doesn't always happen in the hustle and bustle of life. It often takes place in the still moments when we can reflect, adjust, and refocus our energy. Silence gives us the time to cultivate a deeper level of patience with ourselves and others, helping us to grow in our ability to handle life's challenges with composure and grace. In addition, silence fosters creativity and innovation. When we are constantly surrounded by noise and input from the outside world, it can be difficult to think clearly or to come up with new ideas. Silence removes these distractions and creates a fertile ground for creative thoughts to emerge. In the quiet, we are able to hear our own thoughts more clearly, allowing our creativity to flow without the interference of external opinions or judgments. This is the space where breakthroughs happen. When we give ourselves the gift of silence, we unlock the potential within us to create, innovate, and problem solve in ways that would not be possible in the midst of constant noise. Through silence, we also build the capacity to act with intention. It is easy to rush through life, responding to every demand, reacting to every situation, and making decisions based on external pressures. But silence teaches us to pause, to step back, and to consider the consequences of our actions before we move forward. It helps us to act more mindfully, to make decisions that are aligned with our true values, and to avoid impulsive reactions that may not serve our long-term well-being. In this way, silence becomes a tool for better decision-making, allowing. In the quiet moments of our lives, where words fail and the noise of the world is temporarily silenced, we discover the power and strength that reside within us. Silence is not merely the absence of sound, it is an active force that enables us to protect our peace, gain clarity, and express ourselves with intention and authenticity. In a world that often values constant speaking and reacting, silence offers a sanctuary, a place where we can heal, grow, and find the wisdom needed to navigate the complexities of life. It teaches us patience, resilience, and the profound ability to listen to our own hearts and minds. When we embrace silence, we are not retreating from the world, we are creating the space to truly engage with it on a deeper level. We learn that silence is not weakness but an expression of strength, a deliberate choice that reflects our ability to remain calm in the face of adversity, to protect our emotional resources, and to preserve the sanctity of our purpose. Silence empowers us to choose our words carefully, to reflect before we act, and to listen before we speak. It is in the quiet that we find the answers to the questions that elude us in the noise. Let us therefore not be afraid of silence. Let us embrace it as a powerful tool for personal growth, emotional healing, and wise decision-making. For in silence, we do not simply retreat from the world, we discover the quiet strength to move forward with purpose, grace, and conviction. In choosing silence, we affirm our ability to control our emotions, protect our peace, and navigate life's challenges with a sense of clarity and direction. Now, more than ever, silence has earned the right to speak louder than words, for it is in this quiet space that we find our truest, most powerful selves.